PGA Tour in chaos. 9 superstars rebel against Scottie Scheffler. The playoffs are rigged. This isn't internet noise. At the BMW Championship, the locker room split clean in half. The world number one has drawn a line, and the league's most powerful voices are openly fighting him. Not over a shot, but over the future of the FedEx Cup. It is the ultimate rich guy problem, revolting against the system because the system doesn't guarantee them a participation trophy. It proves these spoiled athletes care about one thing only: protecting their slice of the pie, even if it means burning the entire table down. But look past the entitlement for a second. These 9 players aren't just whining about money. They are engaging in one of the most sophisticated power plays professional golf has ever seen. They realize the current FedEx Cup format is a brilliant corporate trap designed to shift all the liability of the PGA Tour's upcoming merger onto the players' shoulders. Scottie Scheffler, the one man who actually deserves to win based on pure ball-striking dominance, has become the target of a fractured coalition. Let me show you who these 9 rebels really are, what they actually want, and why the playoffs are genuinely rigged, just not in the way you think. Personally, I think Scheffler is getting blindsided by his own peers. Do you agree? Or do you think he brought this on himself? Drop it below, and if the real golf war is what you're here for, you're in the right place. Subscribe so you don't miss what's coming. To understand why these 9 players are coming for Scottie Scheffler, you first have to understand the fault line running through professional golf in 2026. In August of that year, the Saudi Public Investment Fund stopped funding LIV. The season finale was canceled. Meanwhile, the PGA Tour itself was being reshaped. New CEO Brian Rohlap came over from the NFL and started cutting. Field sizes dropped from 156 to 144. Smaller events went from 132 to 120, and the number of fully exempt tour cards got slashed from 125 to 100. 25 players who used to have guaranteed status now had nothing. So you have 2 things happening at once: a group of defectors trying to return, and a tour leadership cutting jobs and blaming the players. That combination created a powder keg, and the match was struck at the BMW Championship. Scottie Scheffler walked into the press conference and gave his answer. He doesn't shout. He doesn't chase headlines. He chooses his words carefully. He said LIV has really good players, and he wants to compete against them. But he also said there has to be some form of punishment for leaving. He named Jon Rahm and Bryson DeChambeau specifically, calling them big names who could be welcomed back on the tour's terms. Rory McIlroy heard that answer and rejected it completely. Hours later, same room, same questions. McIlroy said he questions what value LIV players would even bring back. He said they wouldn't be welcomed. He said the road back would be very, very difficult. So now you have the world number 1 saying come back but pay a price, and the world number 2 saying don't come back at all. 2 men, 2 visions, 1 sport. That's the fracture. But that fracture is not the rebellion. McIlroy isn't rebelling against Scheffler. He's rebelling against Scheffler's softness on LIV. He wants a harder line. That's not what the title promises. The title promises something bigger, something more dangerous, because standing just outside that press conference room, watching these 2 men tear the sport apart, were 7 other players who weren't debating policy. They were planning something else entirely. They were fighting about the playoffs, and they had already made their move. Scheffler thinks the biggest threat to golf is randomness, bad luck, bad bounces, mud on a ball, pin positions that turn skill into a lottery. But what he didn't realize was that a group of his peers was quietly building a case that the entire FedEx Cup system is rigged. Not against them, but against him. The first move came from a quiet, calculating major champion who had been studying the numbers for years. He said the playoff format punishes excellence. He said the best player over 8 months shouldn't be penalized for 3 bad weeks. He said the best player this year, the best player by a mile, was Scottie Scheffler, and the system was designed to make sure he might not win. Then he asked a question nobody wanted to answer. Does golf even need playoffs? That one question opened a door, and behind that door were 8 other players, each with their own reasons, their own grudges, their own agendas. But before we get to them, you need to understand the math, because the playoff rigging isn't a conspiracy. It's a formula. The FedEx Cup structure seems simple enough. 3 playoff events, $100 million in bonus money. The winner gets $15 million. But here's the catch. The points reset. In the regular season, you accumulate FedEx Cup points. Scheffler won 8 times this year. He was so far ahead of everyone else that the gap between him and number 2 was bigger than the gap between number 2 and number 20. That's dominance on a level we haven't seen since Tiger Woods in 2000. But when the playoffs start, all that regular season work gets compressed. The top seed starts with a 2-shot advantage at the Tour Championship. That's it. A 2-shot head start after 8 months of being the best player in the world. It's like running a marathon, getting to the finish line first, and then being told you have to run a 100-meter sprint against everyone else, and they only need to beat you by a step. That's what Matt Fitzpatrick was talking about. He looked at the numbers and saw that Collin Morikawa could be ranked 3rd going into the playoffs, have one bad week, and finish 25th. He realized that the person this system hurts the most is the one who played the best all year. That's Scottie Scheffler. The system is designed to make sure the regular season matters less. The more dominant you are, the more you have to lose. Fitzpatrick said, the guy who played the best all year should win the FedEx Cup. This year, that's Scottie Scheffler. But if he has a bad 3 weeks, just 3 weeks out of an entire season, he might not. And when he called it out publicly, he became the first of the 9 to openly say what everyone in the locker room was thinking. The playoffs aren't a test of the best golfer. They're a test of who gets lucky at the right time. But here's the twist. Fitzpatrick didn't stop at just criticizing the format. He went further. He asked whether golf even needs playoffs at all. Now we get to the players. Let's start with the first of the 9, Rory McIlroy. McIlroy has been the face of the PGA Tour for years. He's won 4 majors. He never left for LIV. He stayed loyal, and he doesn't think the guys who left should be allowed to waltz back in. When Scheffler said, "Welcome back, but pay a price," McIlroy heard, "Welcome back." He heard a concession, and he decided to push back. McIlroy's rebellion is ideological. He believes the tour has to protect itself from people who walked away. He believes letting them back in without serious consequences would make the tour look weak, and he's not afraid to say it publicly, even if it puts him on the opposite side of the world number 1. So McIlroy is just the beginning. The other 8 have different reasons, different grievances, and different agendas. The second player is Justin Thomas. Thomas has been a friend of Scheffler's for years. They've played practice rounds together. They've been teammates on Ryder Cup teams. But Thomas has never been shy about speaking his mind. Thomas called the USGA's ball rollback decision selfish. He famously asked whether they'd make a mile longer so the fastest mile time doesn't change. His rebellion isn't about LIV. It's about governance. He doesn't trust the USGA. He doesn't trust the R&A, and he doesn't trust the tour leadership. When Scheffler says he trusts the tour to handle the LIV situation, Thomas disagrees. He thinks the tour is going to make a deal that favors the executives, not the players. Thomas is a 2-time PGA Championship winner, and when a star starts questioning the leadership, people listen. The third player is Lucas Glover. Glover is a veteran. He's won the US Open. He's been on tour for nearly 2 decades. He speaks for the middle class of the tour, the players who grind week in and week out to make a living. Glover called the tour's explanation for cutting field sizes insulting. He said the real reason was about money, reducing the field so that the remaining players got a bigger piece of the pie. His rebellion is about fairness. He represents the guys on the bubble, the ones fighting to keep their cards. Glover called out the top players, including Scheffler, for being silent. He said they need to get in the game. That's a direct shot at Scheffler, who has been focused on his golf and hasn't engaged in the political battles. His rebellion is different from Thomas's. Thomas is fighting for influence. Glover is fighting for survival. The fourth player is Viktor Hovland, the young Norwegian. Hovland won the FedEx Cup in 2023. He's been in the top 5 of the world rankings. Hovland has said publicly that Scheffler's only weakness is putting. And when Scheffler improved his putting, Hovland noticed. He said it eliminates Scheffler's only vulnerability. That sounds like a compliment. But if you listen closely, it's also a warning. Hovland is saying, if Scheffler has no weaknesses, how do we beat him? His rebellion is on the course. He's proving Scheffler can be beaten. The fifth player is Jon Rahm. Rahm is the former world number 1. He won the Masters in 2023. He took a 9-figure deal to join LIV, and now he wants back in. Rahm's situation is complicated. He left for the money, but now that LIV is collapsing, he needs to come back. Scheffler said Rahm is one of the players he'd welcome back. That puts Scheffler on the side of mercy. But Rahm hasn't said anything publicly about his return. His silence is a form of rebellion. He's forcing the tour to make the first move. Rahm's presence is about leverage. He's the biggest name who left. If he comes back, it legitimizes the tour's position. If he doesn't, it makes the tour look weak. So the tour needs Rahm to come back, but Rahm is waiting to see what kind of deal he can get. The 6th player is Bryson DeChambeau. If Rahm is the quiet rebel, DeChambeau is the loud one. He called the USGA's ball rollback decision atrocious. He's been one of the most vocal critics of golf's governing bodies. DeChambeau left for LIV. He signed a huge contract, and now he wants back. But unlike Rahm, DeChambeau is actively campaigning, and that is a direct challenge to McIlroy's stance. The 7th player is Brooks Koepka. Koepka already came back. He was the only player to accept the tour's returning players program. He paid a fine, he gave up equity, and he played his way into events. Koepka's return is the template for what Rahm, DeChambeau, and Smith might have to do. He showed that it's possible to come back, if you're willing to pay the price. But Koepka's experience also showed that the price is high. Koepka's rebellion isn't about returning, he's already done that. His rebellion is about showing everyone else that the tour is serious about punishment. The 8th player is Cameron Smith. Smith is the 2022 Open champion. He's one of the best putters in the world. He left for LIV, and now he wants back. Smith has been quiet. He's waiting to see how the tour handles the others. He's watching Scheffler's comments. He's watching McIlroy's reactions. And he's positioning himself to get the best deal possible. Smith's rebellion is about leverage. He's one of the most popular players in the world. He has a huge following in Australia and the UK. If he comes back, he brings that audience with him. That makes Smith a wild card. He could align with Scheffler or with McIlroy. His decision could tip the balance of power. The 9th and final player is Collin Morikawa. Morikawa is a 2-time major winner. He won the PGA Championship in 2020 and the Open Championship in 2021. And he's been the victim of the playoff system that Fitzpatrick was talking about. Morikawa was ranked 3rd going into the playoffs one year. He had a rough 3 weeks, some bad breaks, a couple of bad shots, and he finished 25th. He lost millions of dollars. He lost his chance at the FedEx Cup, and he's never forgotten it. His rebellion is about justice. He knows what it's like to have a great season wiped out by 3 bad weeks. He knows the system is flawed, and he supports the effort to change it. Morikawa's role in this rebellion is crucial. He's proof that the system can hurt anyone, even the best players. So those are the 9 players: Rory McIlroy, Justin Thomas, Lucas Glover, Viktor Hovland, Jon Rahm, Bryson DeChambeau, Brooks Koepka, Cameron Smith, and Collin Morikawa. 9 different motivations, 9 different agendas. But they all share one thing: a willingness to challenge the dominance of Scottie Scheffler. McIlroy is ideological. Thomas is political. Glover is fighting for survival. Hovland is using his play to make a statement. Rahm and Smith are using silence as a weapon. DeChambeau is using noise. Koepka is the living proof that return is possible and painful. And Morikawa is the cautionary tale. They all have different goals, but they've all found themselves on the same side of the line, against the world number 1. Now, you might be wondering, where does all this leave Scheffler? Is he isolated? Is he going to fight back? The answer is complicated. Scheffler isn't going to start shouting at press conferences. That's not who he is. He's going to respond on the course. He's going to keep winning. He's going to prove that no matter what system you put in front of him, he's going to be the best. But here's the problem. The playoff system is rigged, not in the sense of fixed or corrupted, but in the sense of structurally unsound. It rewards volatility. It punishes consistency. And that means Scheffler's biggest threat isn't McIlroy or Thomas or any of the 9. It's the numbers. It's the math. It's the fact that a single bad week can cost him the FedEx Cup no matter how dominant he was all year. That's the irony. The players are rebelling against Scheffler, but the system is already doing the work for them. They don't need to beat him on the course. They just need to survive the first 2 playoff events. stay close enough, and hope that 3 bad days ruin his entire season. So where does this leave the story? It leaves us with a championship race that no one can predict. It leaves us with a locker room divided. And it leaves us with the most dominant player in the game, walking into a system that's built to destroy him. And here's the question every fan should be asking. If Scheffler wins the FedEx Cup despite all of this, despite the system, despite the rebellion, despite the 9 players trying to stop him, is that the greatest achievement of his career? Or is the system so broken that his win would prove nothing? I'll let you decide. Personally, I think Scheffler winning the FedEx Cup would be a miracle, the kind of achievement that cements his legacy forever. But I also think the system should be fixed. What do you think? Drop your thoughts below. And if you want to stay ahead of this story, if you want to know who wins the championship, who makes the cut, and who falls apart, you're in the right place. Subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter.